Afternoon, everyone. We're just going to give it one more minute. We've got a couple more people trickling in. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for our fourth quarter roundtable discussion, where we'll be discussing how a quality management system helps reduce costly project errors. For those of you who may not be familiar, we are Steel Erectors Association of America, or SEAA. SEAA was established in 1972 and represents structural and reinforcing steel contractors, fabricators, and suppliers that serve this market. My name is Nick Cartelli with Nelson Stud Welding, and I'm currently serving as the Vice Chair of SEAA's Marketing Committee. Some housekeeping for today's discussion. If you have any questions during the roundtable, please type them into the question box. That's the icon with the question mark in the top right-hand corner of your screen. We will get to as many questions as possible, and we will send follow-up emails with answers to the questions we weren't able to get through. SEAA hosts webinars every quarter, so if you're interested in looking at past discussions, you can find them on SEAA's website under the News tab, or you can visit us on our YouTube channel. When looking for us on YouTube, please search for Steel Erectors Association of America, not SEAA. Last quarter, we did a webinar on mental health in the steel erection industry. And if you missed it, please take a moment to watch it on SEAA's website or YouTube. It was a really good webinar, and we just love to share it with as many people as possible. Lastly, we want to thank the Atima team for leading this discussion with us today. And I want to personally thank Macy with Mighty Mo Media and Kathy with SEAA for all their behind-the-scenes work that they do to make these webinars possible. So now let's get to the webinar, the roundtable. I'm going to pass it over to Elisa Sanchez with Atima to introduce the topics that we'll be covering today and our panelists. Take it away, Alicia.
Thank you, Nick, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alicia Sanchez, as you mentioned, Atima's Chief Sales and Development Officer. And today I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists and our topics for the session. So we're going to be covering clear processes, routine training, tracking issues, and regular audits when it is with the non-conformance system and the quality management system. And for our panelists, we have Tom Anderson, my best friend and technical director of Atima. We have Tanner Meyer, CEO and SEAA's big baller at Cumberland Steel. We have Tyler Jones, VP of Business Development, and Jennifer Breiser, Project Manager of Henderson Fab. And before we get started, I just wanted to introduce who Atima is and what we are about. We are a quality firm that guides organizations through the AIC certification process. We do help fabricators and erectors develop, implement, and maintain the quality management system. With over 25 years of experience in a team that includes leadership that has served previously as president and lead auditor of QMC, which is AIC's auditing entity. And we also have numerous team members that have conducted audits for QMC, and many actively contribute to code writing committees and certification bodies. We provide all of the full service certification support for your quality management systems, from documentation and procedure development to even helping out with those internal audits and pesky corrective actions you may receive. Whether your company is pursuing certification or you're maintaining your certification, we help all of our clients so that they can be confident during their audits and achieve those bids for those more complex structural steel projects. And I am going to turn it over to Tom Anderson.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm the technical director for the AIC certification portion of Atima, and we're going to go through a few questions here about the quality management system and some requirements and some things that how it actually provides value and actually helps prevent loss of money, which is what we really want to do, is not lose our money on a job. So on this first question here, having written processes, First is, what is AIC looking for when it comes to a written process? They call them documented procedures, but what is that? It's your process, how you complete a process, whether it's construction document review, welding, inspection, to fill in the blank. There's processes, there's ways that you have expectations for how you want your company to do things. Why? Because you want consistent, positive results and try to minimize mistakes. That's the why behind this question. And I'm going to start off with Tanner. He's a AIC certified director and has many written processes and procedures. Tanner, how do you see value in this and having those written processes?
The value is tremendous from start to finish. When I say start, from hiring an employee to completing a project, we take our quality management system and it's implemented day one as employees, starts their training. So we're consistent from that day forward, and they know what to expect on our project, the way we operate, the way we execute. One big implementation that we put in place and have made better working with you all is just pre-weld inspections. We're inspecting before the inspector's ever called. Every weld has our welder's initials on it, and it really helps us track if we're having issues. But we shoot for zero failed inspections, and we stay 99% of that most of the time, just by these processes in place and following them.
Nice. So what I'm hearing there is also that because your strong practice and process that the employees are following, you're also saving your customers some money too, because they're not having to worry about following up on any punch list items or things, because you're ahead of the game and things are done correctly before they even take a look at it.
Exactly, and you build that confidence with the customer, with the inspectors. They're going to judge you off your first inspection, right? It's first impression. So, we come out of the gate strong there, and then just stay consistent with it, and it gives us such a better working relationship in that realm, where there's trust in us. These guys are going to do it right, and they want us on the next job because we take that problem out of their problem bucket. We want to be a solution, and that's just one way. Utilizing the quality management system has really benefited us.
Nice. And Jennifer, from the fabricator point of view, what kind of value have you seen from having these written processes and procedures?
For us, we like to cross train and have everyone follow the same procedures, right? So typically in our shop, everyone is in their own area and does their main task 90% of the time. But when there's nothing for our welders to do, or there's nothing fit up and weld for them to be working on, they might be put in another area of the shop. And so having these written processes allows us to make sure that we're maintaining the same product that we're going through from start to finish, no matter if it's an employee that's in that position every single day or if they're just there once a month. And it allows us just to make sure everything from when we first receive steel, how we store the steel, how it's brought into the shop, how we process anything through our Vortman, or how it gets over to our welders, and then the process even down to paint and then being loaded up. So it's having the QMS system in place in general has just made us go above and beyond what our main expectations were, and helps us make sure that we hit our schedules and that we have less cars or less field issues.
Nice. Tyler, from your point of view in the operations side, what do you see in value in that?
Both people hit it on the nail on the head there, but really what it is for us is a written process reinforces our culture. So one of the things that we really push for at Cumberland was setting a culture throughout, from whether you're a fire watcher, superintendent, or a project manager, or an estimator. It's building a culture of safety, quality, production. A written process sets that expectation, and it reduces your variability. And if you can reduce the variables, all of those items will fall in place: your safety, your production, and your quality.
Nice. A little bit of on the same question, on the same topic, but changing perspective. What is your guys' opinion on how granular your procedures need to be written? Do you feel it's more appropriate to be very specific or providing more of a guidelines type of thing? And start off Tanner, I guess.
Yeah, I think for us, it somewhat started granular, and I think it develops as you go back and go back through it when you're auditing it, and it becomes more broad and a guideline because everything doesn't fit in the same box, whether it's the type of project or what you're doing. So I think it was good to start granular, and then you could take some stuff out or add stuff in, and really just kind of mold it to where it fits your company. And in every company, we all don't do the same thing. We all operate a little differently. So I guess that's my take on it. That's our experience with it as well.
What do you say, Jennifer, from your point of view as a fabricator?
Same. It literally depends on what it is. So, our equipment, we have our own written procedures that come from those special equipment, like how they have to process that. Some of the other stuff is a little bit, you know what I mean? It can be a little bit more fine-tuned. When it goes from this area, you do these 3 checks, and then it goes to this area. It just depends pretty much on the specific task at hand or what we're talking about. If it's our drawings from document control, when they get brought in from estimating perspective to when it becomes a project, etc., each one, depending on the complexity of that, has more information or less information, and we can generalize it if need be. And we've adjusted our QMS. We have our management review at least once a year, and then when we're done with that, we usually have been updating our QMS about twice a year, and sometimes they're just very minor, removing one word or adding in another phrase or something, or assigning it to a new person just based on experience.
All right, so that's what I was about to go next was how do you keep your manual and your procedures up to date? So you use the management review meeting. Tanner, what do you guys use?
Go ahead, Tyler.
Go for it, Tyler.
Same question, or you're saying keeping items up to date?
Keeping it up to date.
So we have several different ones. So our main system that we're using right now is we keep Excel spreadsheets, obviously tracking processes, items like that. We also have audits that we do through Raken and through SiteDocs. And then we have sheets that actually alert us when we need to review and update certain items, whether it's employee certifications, whether it's an audit of our processes, and scheduling that. When you have a schedule built in to review these processes, you're not doing it by feel, where you're not being reactive and saying, well, I'm going to review this process because we had an issue there. That's a great trigger to go do it. But if you have a schedule laid out to go check your processes, you make sure you're consistently hitting all of your processes as you go through, and allowing time to audit and refine those kind of as you work through growth or change in the company or change in how you operate or change in individuals. So consistently auditing, tracking, and making sure that you're hitting all your items in kind of a measurable span helps.
That's actually, it reminds me when you talked about growth, that's actually something I've seen with a lot of different clients I've worked with is they start with a small company, say it's like 3 people in the office and a crew, and through the practice of just growing their company, you're evolving your quality management system based reflecting on the size of the management you have now and how many crews you have and how that affects how things occur. So that's a living document. I like to tell people about their procedures and their manual. Tyler, Tanner, you're about to add something there? Look like you're.
You got it. I think I already lost my thought. So.
All right, for sake of time, let's. I could talk about this one all day, but let's go on to our next question. So, why is it necessary for having ongoing training? Wow. So, AIC has a requirement for periodic training and initial training, and A lot of times I see people, they're very diligent with the safety training of initial training and ongoing training, but they often forget about quality training. Jennifer, I'll start off with you. What do you guys do to keep up to date on your quality side?
Well, we're huge on training. So we do a toolbox talk every week, period, no matter what. And then every time we have a new hire, we have a safety group come in. We use Progressive Safety personally. They're down here in the South. We have them come in and do our new hires. And then we do look through and see if anyone is like due or will be due in the next couple months for the same type of training. So that way they all stay up to date on those sorts of safety. As far as our QCIs, they go through training every couple weeks when we get a new project and it's got, specific requirements on it. We do trainings. And then anytime that we get an NCR or a car, that entire group is trained. And if they don't want to hear it again, then they need to learn from it, right? So the more that we're training it, the more that they're retaining and holding on to it. So if one guy keeps messing up, there's going to be 5 other guys in that same area either allowing it to happen or not following up. So when we pull all 5 guys from that area and they all have to do the training every single time that there is a NCR with a product that came out of their area, it ends up being like, it's not ever a bad thing. It always helps out. So we're huge on training and definitely see that it's very important for our daily process.
Nice. Yeah, Tyler, I'll give you the first shot at this one on your side of the house.
Yeah, it's just adding more of the same. So, right, repetition builds muscle memory. And like Jennifer was saying, not every employee you have is gonna retain every portion of the training you put through. So repeating that training, allowing employees to bring things back up. And then the other part of the training, like before we were talking about scheduling out our audits, scheduling out our training as well to make sure that we're not being reactive with our training, we're being proactive. So it's not, hey, we're going to institute a training because we had an incident here, right? We have a schedule training. Now, yes, if we have an incident, something like that, obviously we're going to put a training in for that incident, but it's being proactive. It's hitting different items throughout the year on a schedule and not just, oh, well, somebody had an incident on the job, or we had an incident here, or we had an issue here. So we're going to put a training out for that. It's trying to get ahead of it, stay ahead of it, create that muscle memory and retention through our entire group.
Do you have indicators or something that you look at that helps you predict what's the right subjects?
Well, an indicator is you look through the year, and if you've consistently had a problem, right, obviously what you're training is not being retained. So it needs to be readdressed. Outside of that, how we build the training schedule is we're trying to hit items that consistently happen within this industry, whether it's affecting us or if you have certain items, right, in steel erection that you need to continually address. So that's how our schedule's built. And then obviously if we have an issue, we're going to reinforce and dive down into that specific item more.
Yeah,
having throughout the year helps.
To tie into what Tyler's saying, so we're on multiple projects at the same time. So a lot of we have all this long list of training and these documents. We're pulling stuff to train on those projects that are more project specific stuff we're actually dealing with at that time. That probably plays a lot into it as far as how that training's going or what we're doing. And to answer the question on why is it necessary to have ongoing training, for me, my attention span's about this long. So there's gonna say I'm an employee and I'm sitting in this training, I'm gonna miss a lot of stuff. So hitting it again and hitting it again, you're gonna pick up more and more. And then I also feel like the more experience you have, you're gonna look at the same training differently because you're gonna retain more, understand more what you're talking about, and just have past experience that you can apply it to in your brain. That's kind of the way I think. And then another one is you have another person doing the training. He's going to do it totally different. or I would do it probably totally different than you would, Tom, even with the same criteria. You know, we're going to talk differently, explain things differently, and it's just going to trigger things and look at it different. Hopefully, pick up things you missed on the first one.
That's right. Actually, it kind of reminds me of a colleague of mine. He was talking about this same thing when he was a very experienced complex coding guy, just knows all that stuff, and he went to get certification on it. And some of the things that he's already known, he went through the training. He actually understood why he was doing what he was doing. He was doing it, but he didn't know why he was doing it, and it gave him better depth of understanding of why it's important to do something. It was a really interesting statement he had there. Is there? I didn't give Jennifer a chance about the indicators, how she looks at or how to find something. You talked about nonconformances, some areas of concern that you've had, some areas. Is there other ways that you see something might give you a good indicating to retrain on something?
If I'm doing an internal audit and I see that, you know, hey, these POs are being written and it doesn't have the delivery date on it, like they're just issuing this thing. It's just simple things that you might come across on your daily. And if I see that it's not being done right, being able to go ahead and saying, hey, I need to go ahead and sit with this PM or work with this guy in the shop and do some sort of training to get them to make sure that we're all doing it the exact same way. It alleviates the process. Maybe there's only 2 or 3 POs that were written wrong, or you know what I mean, versus the entire project and nothing was submitted, or you know, there's tons of stuff throughout the life of a project that it compounds if you're not following up on it. So training is good for the office and the shop.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's, you know, it's literally anything you see. You know, we change our processes and procedures depending on how things are going, or as we get new employees, things, you know, how you've all heard the old thing that teachers will do and have everyone write a story on how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and then everyone writes something completely different. It's the exact same thing. We write a procedure and you think that you're writing it for a stranger to come in and has no experience to do the specific task, and as they're doing it, you know, everybody's fine. All of a sudden you get a new guy and it doesn't make any sense to them, and you realize you really were not basing it for just anyone, and you make those modifications to training as well.
Nice. That really kind of ties back to having those procedures too.
Yeah.
So you have a clear understanding of how things are done. You train on how that thing is done. You get better, consistent results and less mistakes. It's always good, like you talked about the office. I love seeing that because everything's downstream from the office.
Yeah.
So if something's messed up from the office side, it makes it downstream into the shop or into the field. This compounds to a bigger problem, and bigger problems equal more money
Yes.
lost. So never forget about training the office. That's a very good point. Okay. So kind of alluded to this next question, in question 3, talking about nonconformances from job site, from the office, from the shop. Those are indicators. Recurring possibly, and maybe one bad one that's really bad. Those can be reasons for seeing that maybe your procedures aren't being followed correctly, or maybe you have an opportunity to do some retraining on some subjects. Jennifer, I'll start off with you. What's your method for capturing or finding out what is a nonconformance, and what do you do with it?
So a nonconformance, right, is anything that is nonconforming with what it's supposed to be. And then if it's over a certain dollar amount, then it becomes a car. Or if it's a huge issue or someone got hurt and it was because they weren't doing a process right, you know. But anyway, so we use an online form. We've actually created it in like the Microsoft forms. So we have it, and we found that the paper forms for NCRs and cars ended up being redundant, and sometimes we weren't getting live updates because it would take so long for the foreman or the QCIs to write up those NCRs. So now they can just log in from any computer that they've got access to and be able to go ahead and plug in this information. If it becomes a car, it automatically generates what happened, and you know, it asks the other couple questions, but it keeps them from having to fill out information multiple times. And it allows that to be something that us here in the office, we can go ahead and pull while they're pulling their documents or do their training, where we get like this live feedback. And as far as our nonconformances, we're able to track, and we're able to track back years, right, because of doing it this online way. But having that availability, instead of me flipping through 100 pages to find something, I can quickly see, was this all generated by one area of our shop? Was this all the paint department? Was this all one specific person that works in my shop? Was this, we found that the majority is all human error based on rushing. Like 95% or more of our issues are when we are overworked, schedules are pulled up by weeks, and we're told, hey, like, what is it, the 5 pounds of something through a 1 gallon hole, right? Like, you just find that you're like, okay, I've got to get all this stuff done, and we've got, our guys are already working 50 to 60 hours a week. How are you going to force out even more steel? And that's when we find issues. That's when the QCIs are, they're QCing a piece, but they miss checking this one area of it, and all of a sudden you got a hole that's off, or and you don't want that stuff to go to field. If a hole's off in the field, that screws everything up, right? So we're big on tracking our NCRs, and having that online system is what shows us it is rushing. That's why there's certain things where we just say, no, we can't do it. We're not pushing our guys higher than this.
Tanner, I know you got a really good anecdote on that.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jennifer said, and to go off of that, we've used that all that data. We're tracking things electronically as well, and we're able to filter it and find, we can filter it all the way down to 1 day, 1 week, one specific job, one specific crew. But what we found is we can figure out what crew is best for what type of project. Say we have two projects, that one's very heavy with welding, a lot heavier structure, and then we have another bar joist job. We can look and say, well, we need to send, these guys are going to take this job, these guys are going to take this job because that's what they're good at. The other thing with what she was talking about with overtime and rushing is the same. We found our sweet spot. We know how many hours a week our guys need to work. We know when it starts going downhill, when we know at what point we start having quality, safety, production issues. So we know where we need to operate. That's how we build schedules. And sometimes it's a fight with a customer, but there's always those times when that's needed, no matter what. So what we also try to do is look at that and find where it's going to happen, and plan for it. Now that's somewhat impossible most of the time, but we usually have an idea of a window it's going to hit. It may be a 30-day window because it's always moving, but we're at least planning for it, talking about it, and looking for it.
Tyler, you got anything to add to that from operations view?
Yeah, I'll say, like Tanner was saying, the data. So we've been really big on collecting as much data as possible. And with that, if you're not tracking your non-conformance, it's really helped us to eliminate waste, which has been a big thing for us. The other thing is non-conformance tends to compound. So another item we noticed by tracking this is any issues we have had in the field have almost directly been because of a non-conformance. Either we're having to perform work out of sequence or rework, so that they compound. Whether you have non-conformance upstream, it's going to affect and can create non-conformances downstream. And if you're not tracking those items and identifying them, then you'll never correct them. So being able to have that data and see your patterns and your trends to stop that waste, it's been huge for us.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it, like, even if you look at safety or quality or whatever, say you have a major incident or just a major mess up that's found way too late, you can always go back, and there's small indicators leading up to that. So the more you're dialed in and not looking over the small shit, excuse my French, you can help control any big problems. There's always those indicators leading up to it. And I think, tracking non-conformance it's right there in front of you. You just got to look at it and make those changes and figure out where the holes in your game are.
Do you guys have any methods that you organize it or sort it to be able to help like give you a little bit better idea of predicting the future? Because as you know, as the old saying goes, if you don't learn your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Tyler, you would be, if you want to speak for us, you could.
I mean, a lot of indicators for us are man hours. That's a big one. We see that kind of, if we start seeing a big change in man hours, that is I'd say that's probably at the top of our list. And then the other nonconformances, obviously tracking rework. If you're tracking that through a job, whether it's, and I say rework is in, we're having to field modify because of an issue from the fabricator, or we're having to rework our own installation. Though obviously those are like the key indicators. And then what Tanner was saying, we use those and then we'll kind of go back to find the root cause. So that's what we're looking for. If you see a lot of rework, you see a lot of overtime, you see high equipment usage, those kind of things, or you're sending out a lot of change orders, that kind of stuff. We see those as our key indicators, and then we try and track back and say, what's causing this? Why are we having issues? Why are we having so many man hours? That kind of stuff.
And Tom, I think, were you kind of also asking about what we use, how we do that?
Yeah. So do you have like a charting system or?
We've built a lot of spreadsheets that, require a lot of manual input, but we also have utilized Raking over the years and have put a lot of time into that. You can do a ton with Raking if you're willing to manipulate it and build it for your company. And we're switching over to what's the name of it?
Flat docs, yes. So it's a combination.
Flat docs. And it's taken a lot of time because we're really building it even more. So as long as they're putting good information in and it's easy for them, they can do it on their phone and it's forced every day or every week and it will take that force and then we can go in and edit or filter and see what we want to see under a large amount of parameters. And we just be sitting there having a conversation and say, well, let's just look at it real quick. Hop on there, click a few buttons, and we can see what's going on or what's happening in the field.
And with that, I think another thing that we do, and we share a lot of information throughout the company. So we were talking hours. It's every week we're in our jobs looking through man hours, that kind of stuff. Not only that, we share our payroll costs and man hours worked with every one of our managers in the company. There's an email that gets sent out, and that also kind of drives the conversation to say, hey guys, look at our payroll difference from last week to this week. Look at the hours you're working on these specific jobs. Why are we seeing these overruns? It sparks that conversation. So when it gets sent out, Tanner and I will talk and say, hey, this job's got a lot of hours this week. We're getting up with the PM and say, what's going on? Why are we seeing so many hours out there? Why are you guys having to work a lot of overtime? And then that tracks us back to that root cause. So it's sharing information throughout the company that sparks the conversation, because sometimes these NCRs may not just pop up and hit you in the face. Sometimes you have to work back to them. So information sharing with all your managers, I think that's something that we do that really helps us.
Yeah, I said it more. It seems like for us, it can always go back to working too much overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, about anything, it comes down to just putting in too many hours.
Yeah, well, that's natural for human. I mean, you start getting fatigued, you start making mistakes. You got to know where that sweet spot's at. Jennifer, you haven't had a chance to talk about. I know you guys use that Microsoft Forms to record, track, communicate. But how do you guys organize and use that, and how do you brief management on that information?
So anytime we get a car, it's automatically just printed out and given to management, and they go and look at that. And then anything that's also, if it's even costly. You know, like we have it, like if it's anything over 500 is like a car, but if it's something that would be, you know, $5,000, it's our shop foreman is up in my, you know, production manager's office talking with him immediately. So we're talking about things before they're even getting, or as they're getting entered into the system, if there's an issue that big. But basically, you know, my foreman brings me trainings every time they're done. So I have an inbox, and I'll go there. We do probably about 10 trainings a week. Most of those are with our actual shop trainings in different areas. But as I go through them, if it's an NCR car, it's marked on there, and that triggers me to go ahead and make sure I'm downloading any information. So I usually know about any NCR within 24 hours.
Nice. So there's one other tool that AIC has that Jennifer alluded to it quite a few times. The management review meeting.
Yes.
Is one of the items in that the AIC requires you to have in that meeting is actually to discuss the nonconformances. They want you to discuss the number and rating them for severity to understand how bad are they. And then that spurs executive management to start making decisions. Now, Tanner's plugged right in on day-to-days on that, but sometimes for anybody out there who's got a bit of a larger business, you got to start thinking about how am I going to brief this information to the bosses, maybe not as plugged in as Jennifer or Tanner or Tyler is on day-to-days. And my suggestion for that is you've got to start making it matter to them. And the best way to do that is you got to speak their language. And this language of management is money. So it puts a little bit more onus on you to do a little bit more homework, but you've got to like, where are we leaking? That's the nonconformance is. It's a leak in the bucket. You're losing profit. And this is why they're tracking this and seeing where is this profit loss coming from? Why is there profit loss? So then you got to start looking at that, and you got to brief it to your management. Boss, this is how we're losing money. But the thing I learned in the Army, you never come with a problem without some kind of a solution. So also come with a suggestion on how you can see how process could be improved, which then ties back to the first and second question. How do we tie that back to our written processes? How does that living document get reflected on how we're going to change our process to be more profitable, to lose less money? And then how is that going to tie back into the training? Because if we're going to change our process, the people need to know you have to give recurring training on that. Like Tanner was talking about, the first time you talk about it, you're not going to pick it all up. You got to recur. You got to talk about it again and get that another 10%, another 20% of that information in there until it's ingrained in there. And this is we were talking about the procedures being a living document. It's a circle. It's a feedback system. You get your nonconformances, you feed back that into management, to the management review meeting, and to the training, and to your procedures. It's ever evolving, and the words the AIC wants to hear is continuous improvement. That's what we're striving for with this. Now we got a little bit of time left here for one more question, and it's revolving around the internal audit. Now, I would like to let people know it's not a bad thing to be audited. And it's not the type where you think of IRS where they're going to be digging into your finances and say, hey, you missed your bill here. Think of this as the internal audit. It's a process review. You've been keeping your manual up to date. Your processes are clear, maybe. Now, how do you check? You actually start looking at the processes being completed. And are they accurately reflecting what the manual is supposed to be saying? And that might give you an indicator on that as well. Tanner, you talked about earlier that you guys do audits on the job site. If I heard weekly?
Yes, we do safety and quality audits weekly. It's on the app, on their phone, on Site Docs now, and our safety manager, our project manager, they work together, and it goes from Monday to Friday. So there's probably 50 questions on there. We don't want it done in an hour on Saturday afternoon, right? Just to get it done. It's something they always have with them. They're completing throughout the week. Stuff for us to fix, nonconformances, whether it be safety or quality. it forces the guys to look at certain things that we know make a successful job site if we're doing correctly. That's the easiest way to explain it. So that's something we do, and it goes out to our customers. We like to be transparent with them. It's kind of hard thing to do at first, but I think it's really built trust with our customers, because I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to figure it out too, right? If we're not fixing it. So it's a way for us to say, hey, we're policing ourselves. Here's what we did. And in the audit, when it comes out, was this corrected? How was it corrected? Right. So it's, again, like you said, you never come with a problem without providing a solution. So that's our way of doing that. And as far as internal audits, it's something we spoke on early, like over the manual. I just think it's a way to really mold your manual to your company. Like I said, as you grow, dynamics change. You have more divisions, more equipment, different types of equipment, different levels of managers, different responsibilities for people. So it's just a way to let the manual evolve with your company. Because what happened January 1st, or the way it was here January 1st last year, is not how it's going to be January 1st in a little over a month, right? I mean, it's just so it needs to evolve with you to be a good manual.
Nice. Jennifer, being a fabricator side of the house, how do you handle your audits?
So with our audits, we do one formal one a year that we're doing, and I do that one. I typically try to do that about a month before our management review, and that one I'll just go ahead and just grab someone else's project and try to run through that and make sure everything is following. Because if I'm doing my own, it's not gonna work out the same way. So I typically try to look at someone else's and just go through one of the projects or one of our large projects or something that's about halfway through, so I can go through and just making sure we're following all of our processes, making sure drawings are tracked properly, whether it's going out from approval, coming back, have we sent the field use drawings? Am I tracking all this stuff in our Strumis, like for where we track all of the material and everything? Am I getting BOLs? Am I getting pictures of my shipment loads? Like, there's all sorts of stuff that I track on those internal audits. And then I also do audits that I'm not doing formally anytime we get a new hire. So when we have new PMs that come in, they already have their own ways, right? We all know everyone gets stuck in their ways of how they do it. So when they come and they're experienced and they've done project management for another company, sometimes they might read your manual or they might go through it some and they're not quite following exactly what you want them to do because they're still doing it the way they did before. So definitely like to go through that and just make sure, really looking through and make sure that all the processes are being followed.
Nice. So you said you would schedule your internal audit about a month before the management review?
Yeah. That's the
Nice.
formal internal audit, and I do that so I can bring those results to that management review on the formal spreadsheet, and I've got it there so we can actually look at it, because that's, most of my stuff, if I see a problem, I go talk to that manager and I'll go talk to my direct superior about, like, hey, these are the problems I'm seeing on this one, and I've done this training, and here's where I've done this training, and this is that, and it's still not being done properly, so they can, kind of going up the ladder that way. But when I do the formal internal audit and I bring it to the table, I have the owners in there, and I'm able to go over it, and this is what we're doing right or what we're not doing right. And I can still bring up those other issues, obviously. But I like to have it so it's fresh, and that's where we currently stand.
Nice. So Tanner, are you doing your weekly or audits? Are you also doing like a once a year formal one like Jennifer, or are you doing it a little differently?
Yeah, we do. We'll bring everyone in that's involved, pretty much the same guys you met when you were with us, and we're sitting down. It actually, I feel like it almost happens quarterly, because there's other reasons. We're so spread out. So at least once a quarter, we have, we take a week, get everybody in the same spot, wherever that is, and we've got a long agenda. So it's looked at. But then at the end of the year, or towards the end of the year, I guess it's 2 weeks ago, everyone was in here, and it's time for us to, finalize everything, have the final management review on our system.
Tyler, on the timing, since you're on the operations side, and in reflection of when the AIC comes in and does their annual audit, is it part of your consideration? Since you guys are so spread out everywhere, how does that work with timing it with the AIC coming in? And you may have everybody in Texas. You guys are headquartered in Kentucky. How do you manage that internal audit like that? And then you got to time it up with the AIC.
I think really our philosophy is this way on anything. We don't necessarily try and time it with the AIC audit. Our philosophy is if we continue to do the right things and we're consistent with it, then we don't need to time it with AIC. We're ready to go whenever. That's kind of our goal in all of our processes is to consistently do what we set out and set the standards to do. And so really our timing is based on kind of how much data we've been able to collect. And so we look to do it at the end of the year. And what we were talking about before, we use these items. You brought up a great point that, everyone shows up to work every day for money. We can all love what we do, but we still have to pay the bills. So a lot of our non-conformance stuff, and part of that review is also tied to performance-based bonuses for our employees. So that's really, we try and time it for the end of the year to have a lot of data, look through our non-conformance, apply it to crews, managers, individuals, the company as a whole. That's kind of how we time it. So
that's really great. That's hearing from both Jennifer and the Cumberland side is it's really great what you guys are doing, because you're actually using the audits to gather information, and executive management can make better decisions for the company based off that information. It's a lot easier to make a solid company decision as executive management when you've got good solid data to help you with that. And as an example, given those company bonuses, I'm sure that's a decision you got to make, and having that data helps you be positive with it, or maybe they didn't earn as much but you've got the data.
Yeah, that's been a big one for us, and we're really implementing more and more to really fine tune it, because it's like start looking at bonuses like, well, if this guy pissed me off just this month, but he's done great all year long, I may base it off of him pissing me off last week, and that could go vice versa. So it's this year has been awesome, because it's the first full year we've really started pulling all this data, and we can really look at it. And I think next year is going to be, it was so good. It made our jobs so much easier, especially for me, that we've implemented a lot more over that will be, implemented over the year or 26. So it just makes us want to continue to do more. And we've found a lot of holes in our game and a lot of waste, and where us as managers are maybe falling short, putting things into place and passing that on down, because there's levels, and if it's stopping it at this level and not making it to the field, then it's no good. It's just us sitting in the office talking about it, right?
You got anything to add on that, Jennifer, for the data coming back to management and making decisions from the shop point of view?
Well, no.
Okay. I just wanted to give you a floor on that one if you had anything to add.
No.
Okay.
I would like them to base, on performance and my bonuses. I don't know if they take that into account, but I mean, maybe I should change my internal audit and my review. I have it right now in October. Maybe I should have that done closer to like right after Thanksgiving.
All right. Well, we got about 10 minutes left, so I think we'll go to the Q&A. All right, so let's see what this first one is here. How do we make sure quality conversations feel productive rather than like a blame game? That's a good one. So we're talking about nonconformances, and that's a common issue I see. I don't care if it's on the fab side or on the rector side. It's like, I don't want to rat out my buddy. I don't want to tattletale. I don't want to make this make someone look bad. how do you guys turn that negative into a positive? How do you guys do that?
For us, that we were talking about us doing just continuous audits every week or turned in at the end of every week. We actually reward our guys and give them praise. We don't give them monetary praise for messing up, but it's definitely rewarded and mentioned if they're being open and honest with what's going on, so we can fix it. That's probably the biggest thing is these guys like, hey, nobody's going to get in trouble. We just need to know where we all want to get better, right? We all want to be the best. And so I think even, on the safety side, it's like, if we're bringing it up and we're fixing it, and it obviously, if it's consistent, things are going to happen. But I think that's probably helped us. Tyler can agree or disagree, but just rewarding the just open and honesty. And it's like, we're not going to fire your buddy because, he felt a moment well. We're going to know he felt a damn moment well anyway, right? So.
Yeah, with us, no one's getting yelled at. They go ahead and we get an NCR or we find something's going on. Our focus is, why did it happen? What caused it? And if it's because I'm overworking somebody, why are they getting in trouble for that? For showing up and doing the work and end up working 14-hour days when that's my fault. So we're, like I said, we use it as a training. We use it as something to help us grow. We don't ever treat our NCRs and cars as a reason to beat someone up. And so I think also, if they're going to be going over these in their management review meetings, when they go in and they're talking about their metrics of it, like, this is why we're getting so many NCRs, find out the root cause, bring that to the table of what's causing these issues, not, well, this person did such and such, and this person did this, and this person didn't check it, but they said it was okay. Focus on why you got there in the first place.
Really good. Anything to add there, Tyler, or we move on to the next one?
I think they covered all of it. I don't have much to add.
I think so too. Okay, here's another question for you guys. Have you ever had the aha moment when you knew your quality management system was working for you and helping you out? The light bulb go on and be like, that's it. We know it's good. We know we're on the right path. We're doing the right thing.
And I do other shop inspections and see how completely different they're doing it. I mean, what I've started doing is I'm now starting to, I've worked with my QCIs in the shop, and I'm not a QCI, right? But I've worked with them on how to inspect it. So if I show up at a shop and I'm taking pictures and I'm inspecting it, first people are confused because they're not expecting someone to even come there and inspect stuff. But even if they're ASE certified, I'm not just taking their certificate anymore. We're like, if we're doing this, I'm going to hold other people to the same standards that I'm holding myself. So we've actually made our own shop inspection form. So I literally will ask subs now for their ASE certs, for their bios, for all that stuff, for my ASE requirements, right? So I can keep all that stuff on file. And then I personally go to their shops and I do my own. And I do my own verifications, and I take my own pictures, make sure they actually have all their library, if everything's current, make sure that all their welders actually know where their WPS is. So, we've done that, and that is nothing that's required of anyone. It's the fact that we're holding ourselves to a high standard. We've decided that we're going to start holding any of our subs to the same standards we're holding ourselves. And then in doing so, it's allowed us also to determine some shops are really good for just onesie, twosie, or like the little embeds or, something like that, but we don't want to give them main steel members. That would be my aha.
Comparison. That perspective is a very effective thing.
And Tanner may have a different view on this, but I don't think I had one specific moment that stuck out. I think the thing that kind of stuck out for me is before we were hard tracking and setting, and not to say that we weren't tracking, we've always tracked, but keeping things organized and put in place and then setting times to review. I feel like we were operating a lot on feel. We're seeing a trend here and we feel this way, or we're seeing a trend here and we feel this way about it, instead of having cold hard data that we scheduled to review. I think that was the big difference for us, is we're not operating off of feel with some data to back it up. We're operating off the data.
Nice. All right, got 5 minutes left. Let's get into another question here. Did partnering with Atima change the way your team talks about quality or approaches problems?
100%.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I recommend you to
thank you.
everyone, Tom.
All right, that was an easy one. Okay, I love this one. I saw this one early. What KPIs, key performance indicators, kind of start thinking about goals or metrics matter most when evaluating the health of your quality management system? What's one or two things that you could say in your processes, whether it's tracking nonconformances or it's training or whatever, where could you put your ruler and measure and say, that's a good piece of information right there that helps us see the health of the company?
For us, it's definitely tracking inspections, passing, having knowing if we're failing inspections and keeping that percentage as close to 100% as possible as far as passing goes. And then also being able to look at our training log and just, you can go down this long list of employees and all these boxes are checked and they're green. And, we're staying consistent and training and retraining. And we're not reactive. It's like we can go to that job. It's not, holy shit, I gotta get 40 guys retrained because we've been falling behind. We're staying on top of it.
All right.
And for me, I kind of lost
yeah.
that at the beginning. Yeah, I did kind of lose that at the beginning of that question. But as far as for me, our biggest importance there is like maybe from the quality management system and from our goals. Like with AAC, you're supposed to have your continuing goals that you're doing. Our biggest one was shipping. We were having a lot of issues. Like we're doing everything right in our shop, and then all of a sudden you're having issues with the erector in the field. Something's being left off. Bolts aren't on that load. Like coming together, and we made our own quality goal. We made a separate NCR log where we're not penalizing anyone, right? We're just tracking anything that was shipping wise that wasn't being done right. So our process with shipping is we take pictures of every single thing as it's loaded up. So not only do our guys have their cargo securement training, we have like the one lead out in the yard, and then we have 2 guys that work under him. But every single thing gets its own piece mark, instead of just being a box of bolts, like it gets its own number and it gets put on the BOL, and then they have pictures. So when I get a phone call from the erector and they're saying, hey, or even the GC, and they're saying, I don't have this piece, I get to go in as a PM without involving my production team, without involving anyone else. And I'm able to go in, find the BOL that it was shipped on, give them the piece mark that they're looking for, show them the picture of where it was at the load. And all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, that truck guy here last week, let me look. And now like 99% of the time they find that on site. So having pictures and the way that we're tracking it now is amazing. And I don't have to interrupt my foreman or have him go check the shelf. I'm able to do all this myself from the project management side.
Nice. And Nick, do we have enough time for 2 more questions, or we got to wrap her up?
I think we're gonna have to wrap it up. But Tom, I mean, this has been so great, guys. We really appreciate it. But just a couple quick updates we wanted to give everyone before everybody jumped off. We have some upcoming events. We have our annual convention and trade show this week, or the week of May 4th in Kansas City. So May 4th, Kansas City. That week, please mark your calendars for that. And then we also have our next quarterly meeting and meet and greet the week of July 29th in Seaside, California. So going out to the West Coast. So mark your calendars. And if you want more details on that, please go to the SEAA website on the events tab. And also, it's the end of the year, so don't forget to renew your membership. And also, Williams, our new director of membership, his contact information is here. If you are a member of SEAA, please make sure to send in referrals to him. We want you guys to all get one of these hats at the next SEAA trade show if you get 3 or more members. So next year, our first quarter roundtable is going to be in February of 2026, and it's going to be on company culture. So we'll be sharing more details about that soon. But everybody have a blessed day. And again, thank you, Atima. Thank you, the panelists. You guys have just, I'm sure, given a lot of people ways to help their quality program. So thank you guys and have a blessed day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.